With that said and done, I'd like us to concentrate on the numbers that I've just shown you as a crossover to the table where my interview is going to be taking place, just to find out what is driving up the wage bill at county level and at national level. And with me in studio is, to answer these questions, I'm joined by SRC Commissioner, Mr. John Ken Monyoncho. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much and welcome to Metropole TV.
Welcome.
All right. Now, John, I'd just like us to start with the elephant in the room, which is the increment in wage bill. It is anticipated that the wage bill for the year 2019-2020 should be as high as 790 billion. Yes. Why is there an increase in the wage bill year on year?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that the commission was established purposely to set and review remuneration and benefits for state officers, and of course to advise the public officers. The commission was not set to reduce salaries. I know around the nation everybody thinks that SRC, their business is to reduce pay. That is not true. In fact, it's not possible to reduce pay in a growing economy where population is growing, and in terms of meeting the needs of the Constitution, where we need to ensure that services go down to the lowest level. It means we will have to employ people. So every year as we employ, it means the wage bill will increase. All right? So in terms of starting point, SRC is not about reducing salaries. It's mainly about managing the rate at which the salaries are increasing compared to other economic factors. Now, the question you've asked whether why the wage bill continues to increase is as the economy grows, all right? As the economy grows, you expect more hands. Right now, we have a huge unemployment challenge. I can assure you that as soon as government itself begins to recruit, because as the numbers you saw this morning, we have a large number of employees in government who are actually in the retirement stage, and therefore we require additional staff. When the staff come on board, you'll have to pay. You must pay the wage bill, and therefore, in terms of the growth of the wage bill, we expect it to continue expanding so long as population is growing. Services must be rendered. But our purpose and our work is to ensure that that growth is really muted, to ensure that either we have a regular cycle in terms of how salaries are reviewed, instead of people reviewing or employers reviewing their salaries when they need or when they want, they actually have a regulated cycle in terms of the salaries. And therefore, in terms of growth, it will continue to grow, but we would like to see it slowing down to meet some international benchmarks.
All right. So how exactly, what are the challenges? Why isn't it slowing down? That's exactly what we'd need to know.
Maybe you should ask why is it growing so fast?
Okay.
Not why is it slowing down.
All right.
But I can tell you from the numbers, if you look at 2012, where the wage bill to GDP was standing at around 10 to 11%. Okay, 2012. And it came down because the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics actually reviewed the base. That means the economy was slightly larger than what was expected because they had reviewed the base. It was standing around 12.5%, but because of the review, it came down to around 11% in 2012. Now, if you look at the wage bill to ratio from in 2017, it's now 8.23. So what does that tell you? It tells you that there is a slow decline, all right, from the perspective of the ratios, which simply means that the wage bill has also slowed in terms of its expansion, all right, from the 11% or 10.5% in 2012 to 2017 to stand at 8.28. Now, what is not slowing as fast is now revenue, wage bill to revenue. In 2012, if you look at it, it was around 55%. All right. Currently, it doesn't slow that much. It's about 50% of the total domestic revenues.
Right.
So what those numbers basically say is that there is a general shift towards positions where we really expect the wage bill to go. It's not moving as fast, but at least there is some semblance of motion. Now, I definitely would contribute that to the fact that when the commission was established, It brought in a semblance of order. The what do you call it, the CBAs, or collective bargaining agreements, that were being reviewed every 2 years. The commission established a 4-year cycle, not a 2-year cycle, to allow for the economy to grow, which means the growth in the wage bill would be reduced and would only be looked at after 4 years. The review for salaries for public services was also within a 4-year cycle. So salaries should not change drastically, or should not be reviewed until after 4 years.
After 4 years.
So the next review we look at in terms of salary should be around 2021, 2022.
All right.
Yes.
Let me just throw this question in. Now, 52%, and this is something that we were discussing, by the way, before we went on air.
Sure.
52% of the revenue that is collected is only catering for 2% of the entire country, and this 2% are the public servants. What is the SRC doing about that? What role do you play in that?
The commission sets quantums. Quantum means we determine how much a position or a role ought to be compensated.
All right.
So if we pick a role of an engineer, for example, the commission would advise. Probably when the engineer works, they would communicate to the commission, and they would ask the commission, we have an engineer on board, this is the qualification, and we want to pay the engineer, or the role of an engineer, not the person, but the role of an engineer in this institution, we would like to pay 150,000, for example.
All right.
Now, when they communicate to the commission, what they would do is to review and find out, is that a good rate, remuneration for the engineer? If we find that it is fine, we will write back to the institution and tell them, go ahead, pay that role 150,000. Now, how many people that institution employs is not in the purview of the commission. We do not determine the number of people employed by the employing institutions, because they understand their needs, and therefore they will employ as per their needs. All right? So if they decide to overemploy, the commissioner will not come in and ask them, why have you overemployed? Because it is not in our purview. Our purview is just to give them the figure for which that pay would be commensurate to that position. All right? So in terms of numbers, we don't have that capacity to say you are only going to employ 5 or 10 or 1,000, but in terms of how much, it is our role and our prerogative to be able to give that kind of advice.
So you can't even touch on matters such as the ghost workers, and which do exist, and I'd like to hear your take on that.
You see, the government has been working on accessing or identifying the actual number of employees, and that has started a while ago, the early mid-90s, when we had what we call the early retirement schemes. All right, just to allow whoever wanted to retire to be released and to go away. And of course, after that, what the government wanted to do is to find out, are we paying people who are actually alive? And this is not the first time that we are thinking about people who are being paid, who either don't report to work, or who either don't exist, or who come but have got another job. All right, those are the possibilities of ghosts that could be in existence, but we don't have the numbers. We exactly don't know where they are, and they're continuous, probably, as we recommended this morning, if we have what you call continuous audits, regular audits, not the ones once every year or once every 6 months, random, without necessarily having objectives, probably that may then be able to pick out where are the payments going, who are they paying, and what is the output. Yes. All
right. So what are your recommendations when it comes to managing the wage bill? Because even according to the report, there's a distribution. The distribution of a total wage bill has seen an inclination of a total of 40.6 billion. From total 40.6 billion shillings to 128.5 billion.
Yes.
40.6 billion, that was in 2013, and 128.5 billion, that is in 2016, 2017.
Yes.
So kindly expound on this as you give us the recommendations and the way forward.
I think it's important to understand numbers.
Yes.
numbers are very important to do analysis,
Yes.
but it's always good to understand where they've come from and the context.
All right.
If you look at the numbers you're mentioning from 2012 to 2017, it's a range of about 5 to 6 years.
Yes.
What that means that you need to have understood what is the average pay or average wage bill per county. Okay, it's good to understand that so that you can understand then the growth rates in terms of how it links now to the employment. Because, for example, in 2012, the devolution had not fully taken root. I think it fully took root probably in 2013, 14, and it started to slow down in terms of growth around 2015. So what you would expect to see is a jump in compensation or remuneration between 2012, 2013, and probably part of 2014. And probably because the new governments had not yet settled down and understood what it is or the number of people they required, they would most likely employ people and hope that they would use all of them. But finally, you find they've got redundant staff that they have to deal with as they move on. And therefore, the growth in terms of the wage bill over the period. I think in terms of recommendation, of course, we made a raft of them in the morning when we were doing the presentation of the document, but at least it's very key for institutions to ensure that they've got standardized processes, procedures of recruitment, of rewarding, of attraction and retention, of even salary review. I mean, salary review, there must be a standard process to be done. It's not a random activity. You can think about the inflation, but then of course it must be done within also certain limits in terms of economic growth. Because I cannot give you or award a 10% increase when I know my GDP is about around 6%. When inflation is around 6.9%, and if employees are asking for 10%, you see it doesn't add. And therefore, the commission comes in and provides the beacons in which salary can be reviewed, and hence the progress you're seeing of the reduced growth as we move forward. So for us is that the institutions need to actually take charge and know that the more the people they're recruiting who are not exactly generating what you call an output or being productive, it means that there is a high possibility that the consumption is being higher than the production. And if consumption is higher than production, then the economy is not going to grow as fast, and we'll get into what we call a catch-22, where people are saying they want to be paid more, but they're not producing as much to qualify for that additional income.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. And that was Commissioner Monyoncho from the SRC. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. There's still lots of questions that I feel like we didn't have enough time for you to answer.
Yes.
But we'll be having another sit down very soon. But regardless, we do appreciate you. You must have had a long day.
It's a long day.
Yes.
Yes.
So I do appreciate you coming through to our studios.